In part one of this series, we examined monsters as creatures who reveal things about us and our world. Monster stories are commentaries on contemporary society and most often show our fear of otherness. In part two, we looked at chaos, reading the Babylonian creation myth Enuma Elish to learn how humankind's earliest thoughts about the universe imagined gods creating order out of pre-existent chaos. Well, today we use our understanding of chaos monsters to consider Jesus in a new light. As a chaos monster himself, who Jesus was has been a matter of debate for millennia. Was Jesus Christ an enlightened spiritual master, God's physical incarnation, a spirit in human form, a fiction, non-fiction, a bit of all of these things? Well, while Christians answer the Christological question many different ways, most would never claim Jesus was a monster. Yet, in creating chaos, Jesus does exhibit monstrous traits. For example, in Mark 3, 1 through 6, we read that Jesus returned to the synagogue. A man with a withered hand was there. Wanting to bring charges against Jesus, they were watching Jesus closely to see if he would heal on the Sabbath. He said to the man with the withered hand, "Step up where people can see you." Then he said to them, "Is it legal on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?" But they said nothing. Looking around at them with anger, deeply grieved at their unyielding hearts, he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." So he did, and his hand was made healthy. At that, the Pharisees got together with the supporters of Herod to plan how to destroy Jesus. Jesus heals someone on the Sabbath and chaos ensues. By revealing the ridiculousness of interpreting a rule so strictly that one cannot even show compassion, Jesus disrupts the entire system. His rebelliousness forces everyone to examine a long-held belief and go, maybe this doesn't work so well. Maybe this doesn't reflect the realm of God so well. Maybe this isn't really doing God's work. Remember, the word monster comes from the Latin monstrare, which means to show or reveal. Well, Jesus is always revealing a new way to see the world through the eyes of compassion, grace, and service, through God's eyes. Jesus also shows us a new way to be with God, personally, without the need of priests, churches, or any rule other than love God and love your neighbor. Jesus causes chaos in the entire human system by telling us God is already with us, and all we have to do is notice. Monsters, from Leviathan to Dracula, enter an ordered world and create chaos. Sometimes necessary chaos, because the world needs reordering. Whether that new order changes things for better or worse depends upon which side of the social order you were on before the monster arrived. Listen, Jesus is a fabulous chaos monster because he tries to turn the world's systems upside down, as he asks every one of us to continue doing today. The Bible often paints Jesus in the ancient chaos monster tradition. He might not be a dragon like Tiamat, but for the chaos he causes in the world, he might as well be. In the temple, Jesus frees all the sacrificial animals. He overturns the bankers' tables. He rails against the evils and injustices of both the Roman Empire and the Jewish religious council, and consistently disregards the rules of the status quo to do what he believes is best for the people, especially the people society discounts and discards. In particular, Jesus makes it clear that nobody needs to pay anything to receive God's love. That is the grace of God. There's no payment required. It's given freely, not as part of an economic transaction. Jesus teaches that God is close and accessible without an intermediary, stripping the temple leadership of their centuries-old power and their financing. Jesus creates chaos everywhere he goes, upsetting his era's social, political, religious, and economic order merely by showing compassion and concern for society's wretched refuse, and insisting that human governments do the same. The power structure couldn't control Jesus because chaos monsters are uncontrollable. Otherwise, they wouldn't really be chaotic, would they? We're afraid of pandemonium and the things that create it, and people were terrified of Jesus and the disorder that he created. Many people today are still scared of him, including Christians who would rather not discuss Jesus, the rebellious insurrectionist, the troublemaker in the temple. Jesus, who calls his disciples to action against the same social injustices that plague our world today. Jesus, who was definitely, provably politically active. Talking about Jesus without acknowledging his radical politics is like having Ben's ice cream without Jerry. It doesn't make sense. Jesus calls us to become chaos monsters alongside him, to be participants in the upheaval of a perverse social order that preys upon the weak and purposefully disenfranchises the powerless. Jesus pulls back the curtain on our corrupt human systems and our outrageously sinful selves, and that's as monstrously revelatory as it gets, especially for those behind the curtain. Jesus reveals the realm of God, our human birthright as divine beings intimately connected to God. And he demonstrates this realm through his selfless actions as something for the here and now, not as a reward for good behavior when we die or something that Jesus will initiate when he decides to return to earth. No, we loyal few are to plant the realm of God, the equitable, just, compassionate, grace-filled society that Jesus talks about and commands his followers to go create. Jesus exhibits another key trait of monsters. They are unheimlich. They are like us, yet not like us. The unheimlich comes into our ordered world and destroys everything we've come to expect as normal. The unheimlich can be a vampire turning our loved ones into the undead, an abusive parent turning what should be a loving home into a nightmare, or even a humble, God-filled rabbi asking his people to look at their beloved scriptures, their God, and their society in a new way. Jesus looks and acts human, but he also claims to speak and act with God's authority. He is like us, but not quite like us, within our world, yet upsetting our balance, overturning the existing religious and civic power structures. The Romans had no choice but to execute this monster. It was the only way they could hang on to their power while simultaneously proving there wasn't a shred of the divine in Jesus. Ultimately, they hoped this would end his rebellion and allow the empire to reclaim divinity as an exclusive birthright of the Roman emperor. Yet, exhibiting perhaps his most monstrous feature, Jesus refuses to stay dead. After his execution, he is resurrected, proving both his divine and divinely monstrous nature once and for all. When Jesus returns from the tomb, even his disciples are horrified at first. When he later returns to have dinner and walk on the beach with them a few more times, they can only think they're seeing a ghost, until at last, in an absolutely grotesque move that would be at home in any modern horror film, Thomas sticks his hand in Jesus' wounds and pokes around a little bit. Even after death, Jesus continues to create chaos. And personally, I hope he never stops. Amen. My question this week, folks, is this. What chaos has Jesus caused in your life? What chaos, perhaps, has he quelled? What chaos has Jesus caused in your life? Or what chaos has he quelled? Maybe there's a little bit of both. Share your stories with each other in breakout rooms. If when we go into our rooms for discussion, you would take some notes and bring them back to the group to share in a few minutes, I would appreciate that very much. Let's see here now. Let's do this. Okay, my friends, I hope you enjoy your discussion time. I will see you in about 10 minutes.